Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jay, and welcome to The Ship Life. So over the past couple days, there has been a lot of chatter all over social media and with big media outlets about two specific sailings that recently took place on cruise ships. Now, these sailings that took place were chartered cruises, and there are now major claims being made that health and safety protocols were not being adhered to on board. We're talking about things like social distancing, wild parties, and cruise lines not limiting the capacity of the amount of passengers on board, which unfortunately ended up resulting in COVID cases on board, and even on one of these ships, a death. Now, I will go over the details that are available so far because there are a lot of mixed comments and feelings about this situation. Some passengers that were on board are saying that they had the time of their life. Meanwhile, you have other people that were possibly not even on the ship that are saying this is an absolute disaster. So we're going to talk about the big question of whether these cruises were actually dangerous or not. Now, before we sail into this major topic for today's video, I do want to take some time out and invite all of you to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video at any point in time, and also subscribe to my channel. That way you can stay updated whenever I post my almost daily videos. Well, sometimes I might even do 2 or 3, just depending on how I'm feeling. But I also want to brighten everybody's mood up a bit and show you this epic but extremely random picture of a humpback whale jumping out of the water in Cabo, Mexico yesterday, right next to the NCL Bliss. Now, this picture was sent to me by a friend of mine that's a dancer on the NCL Bliss, and it's just beautiful because you can see on the front of the ship on the NCL Bliss, it's actually whales painted on it. I just think it's kind of like a cool mirroring image, and whales are my favorite animal in the entire world. I just thought, maybe you guys should see it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the video. So there were recently 2 different charter cruises that took place earlier this month with 2 different cruise lines, 2 different hosting companies, and of course 2 different ships. That was a lot of 2s, but as they say, 2 is a lucky number. But anyway, the first charter cruise is hosted by what's known as Atlantis Events. Now, for Atlantis Events, this event took place on January 16th through the 23rd on board Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas, and the other hosting company would be from Vacaia or Vacaia on the Celebrity Millennium. This cruise would take place on January 10th through January 17th. Now, when it comes to these charter cruises, guys, you got to understand that a charter cruise is basically when a third party or hosting company essentially rents out the entire ship for their guests. This is what's going on in this particular ship, and in this particular case, this is what's known as an LGBT cruise or a gay cruise. Now, some people may also look at this and say it's a theme cruise. So it just depends on your personal perspective of it and how you look at it. Now, when it comes to these chartered cruises, they were believed to be sold out. However, one of these ships, the Celebrity Millennium, did have a little bit of trouble getting a couple hundred passengers on, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the Oasis of the Seas can hold about 5,600 passengers or so. And then when you talk about Celebrity Millennium, it can hold about 2,100 passengers. Again, I don't know the exact details because it hasn't been listed as far as what they were doing with capacity. Now, there are people saying that these ships were set to be 100% occupied, but either way, we'll go over the details in a second. Now, as soon as these cruises started to take place, during the duration of them, you had a ton of articles that were starting to come out saying things like, or asking questions rather, of can a gay cruise be kept safe? And they're saying that this is a super spreader event, and they even went on to say that Oasis of the Seas is now, for this particular cruise, being dubbed as Omicron of the Seas. And as catchy as that sounds, it is extremely negative, let's be fair. Now, when it comes to one article asking the question of can a gay cruise be kept safe, I do believe, yes, it is within context to ask a question like that. However, when it comes to overall charter cruises and themed cruises, you can ask that question for literally any type of category that is actually having these charter cruises. Whether it's a rock cruise, a Bob Marley cruise, or an LGBT cruise, we do know that overall some rules at times, not talking about this particular event and these sailings that recently took place, but rules can obviously be bent. Let's say, for example, with a nude cruise. Obviously, in normal circumstances, people can't just go ahead and run around the ship in their baby suit. So I would say, with the exception of everything except for like maybe a knitting cruise, things are going to be a little bit more wild, a little more rambunctious, because obviously people there are for a specific reason other than just being there just to sail on a cruise or go visit a port of call. They're there to, at times, party, depending on the style of event that's taking place. I just realized I said baby suit a second ago. That probably would be acceptable. Also weird to see on a regular cruise, but I don't think that's against the rules. I meant birthday suit, as in you walking around in the nude, showing your cheeks and all the other stuff that people may not want to see, or maybe they do, who knows. But anyway, let's look at the results of these 2 cruises that took place. Now, I do have to let all of you know that more information is available on one cruise as opposed to the other, that being of which the Celebrity Millennium. Now, just so you guys are aware, in case you don't know, both Celebrity Cruises and Royal Caribbean are all under the same umbrella known as the Royal Caribbean Group. So as far as their general set of rules, guidelines, health and safety protocols, it is going to be somewhat the same. Everybody everybody that was sailing on board these charter cruises had to be both vaccinated and tested prior to boarding. For that reason, on board the Celebrity Millennium, unfortunately, literally hundreds of passengers were turned away for testing positive prior to boarding. Apparently, there was supposed to be about 2,000 passengers that were sailing on board this particular charter cruise. The ship holds about 2,100 passengers, and it ended up being just under 1,500 passengers sailing on the specific cruise. While the sailing was taking place through the 10th through the 17th of January, 27 people tested positive for COVID, unfortunately, while on board, and 72 people also had to be isolated as they were close contacts to the people that tested positive. Now, unfortunately, there isn't much on the Oasis of the Seas, but we do know in some very disappointing and sad news that a passenger did pass away on board. Now, we can't confirm the exact cause of death. They know it wasn't COVID. They said apparently it was supposed to be some other health or medical reason related. Some people believe it was a heart attack. Now, I do want to give my condolences for that passenger before we go ahead and move on, because obviously this is a very sad and tragic situation that can and realistically happen on really any cruise or even in the outside world, whether we are on land or at sea. Now, looking at this video of Oasis of the Seas, it has pretty much gone viral on all social media platforms, and a lot of people saying, again, you have Omicron of the Seas and a super spreader event. I will say, first of all, just in my own opinion, I don't really see anything wrong here to a certain extent. There is one thing that I kind of have a little bit of a gripe about when it comes to charter cruises in general, which I'll talk about in a minute. But you got to understand, yes, these people are having fun. As far as Omicron, we are seeing Omicron literally everywhere, whether you're on land or at sea. And just looking at these people, we know everybody is vaccinated, we know everybody is tested, so what is the big deal at the end of the day? Now, as far as the rules, health and safety protocols that are being implemented on board these ships, and when it comes to charter cruises, there is unfortunately a mix-up of safety and health versus business and making profits. When it comes to charter cruises, we'll see these situations where the cruise lines at times, and again, I'm not talking about this specific cruise, but just over the past years, when it comes to other cruises like the Rock Cruises or Metal Cruises, anything like that, rules are being bent somewhat to some degree, simply for the fact that obviously an entire ship has been rented out for a company, and it's probably not going to be cheap. But you just see people enjoying their time and doing what they're supposed to be doing on vacation and when they're traveling. The idea of a vacation is to be able to escape reality, and it looks like these people are actually doing so, on top of the fact that they were also outside. So honestly, as a whole, I have no real problem with it. All I would say for the cruise lines is just to keep that same energy. You can't have all these rules and telling people to social distance even outside, not saying every cruise line is doing that on one ship, but just when they go do, you know, a charter cruise, especially around this time of year because things are typically slower and they want to make the profits before we get into the busier times of the year, like your springtime and of course your summer season, it just needs to be somewhat at an equal level as far as how they're implementing these health and safety protocols, should something be kind of different depending on if it's a charter cruise or a regular cruise. Now, before I conclude this video, I do want to say that when it comes to this topic, the only reason I'm talking about it is because people have been literally messaging me and emailing me and talking about this for over a week, so I figured why not jump on it. I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to talk about this specific cruise for it being an LGBT cruise or anything of that nature. It's just something that obviously is kind of one of the talks of the town, seeing as how the media tends to run wild with situations whenever they can kind of get their hands on it. Now, I do want to hear from all of you, of course. Do you think this is deserved the criticism that it's getting as far as these charter cruises that are taking place, or do you think it's a little overhyped? Please let me know in the comment section below. I do appreciate every single one of you. On your way out, please comment below what you feel about this particular situation. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe. That way you can stay notified whenever I post more videos. Who knows, I might post another one today, or I'll get back to it tomorrow. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope all of you are doing well out there. Take it easy.